I like to use Dr. Gabor Mate's definition of trauma, which is it's not what happens to us, it's what happens inside of us because of what happened to us. Now, in simple terms, trauma is an emotional and physical response to an event that is deeply distressing, possibly even life threatening. And is often described as an experience that overwhelms your ability to cope. But the thing is that trauma is not a one size fits all. It does not show up in everybody the same way. What it might look like is an excessive anxiety, irritability, stress, inability to sleep well, excessively worrying about what might be around the corner. What is the danger that I might be presented with? Where trauma takes that next step is that it also may cause the inability to think about and relive past events because it is way too much to handle. What does that mean? Way too much to. Well, when we start to think about that event or we have a flashback that is not entirely in our control, our minds do some tricky things to try to cope with it. Those things may look like dissociating, anger and aggression, shock or disbelief, feeling a numbness, a disconnection, an exhaustion, or a chronic fatigue. Maybe your heart starts racing or you start to sweat when you relive that moment or you come into some sort of contact with where that moment might have happened. The other part about trauma is that it also incentivizes social withdrawal. It starts to make you distrust, not just in yourself or even in that particular place, but also with other people around you. Who do you feel safe with? It starts to isolate you more and more and more. You start to avoid not just places, but now people, leaving you in a very siloed way of thinking, nothing to bounce ideas off or even challenge what might be going on in the here and now. And just like anxiety, I really like to use mindfulness and CBT to get started on some of those coping mechanisms. Mindfulness, in order to settle the mind, calm the body, so that you can actually cope with what's in front of you. Reliving that moment is not easy at all and is, in fact, why it's very traumatic. And so, mindfulness allows us to know that we are no longer in that moment, even if we do have a flashback, even if we do have a nightmare. It does not respond the same way that it did way back when. In using mindfulness, then we couple it with CBT again. We reframe what is happening in the here and now. What emotion are we feeling that maybe does not need to be felt right here, right now? And when we're ready to relive that experience and properly process it so it doesn't make you feel stuck anymore, we use a method called EMDR, eye movement desensitization reprocessing. Now, what EMDR allows us to do is to go back to that moment with all the tools that we've already started to practice and get really good at, a safe environment where you are in total control about when we step in or step out. EMDR allows us through eye movements or even body taps in order to not fully submerge us into that moment again. And when we're allowed to relive that moment again, we gain different perspectives. We gain different insights on what actually happened and what we take away from it. And that makes all the difference. If you get to rewrite your story on what happened and what you get to take away from it, then you rewrite the whole event itself. I've seen EMDR work tremendously. So much so that I've had clients go back to that physical space and not have any traumatic response at all. No anxiousness. I've even had clients who've had traumatic physical impact on their own bodies. So it's not even a physical place or thing that brings them back to that moment. It's their own pain, it's their own body that reminds them of what happened. But again, through reprocessing, through figuring out different insights and ways of rewriting what happened, may continuously be happening to you. We learn to move forward. We learn to manage and to cope so that you live the life you want to.